this regularly scheduled meeting to order. If you will join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. Sorry. Roll call and declaration of conflicts of interest, please.
Councilmember Abraham,
Here and none.
Councilmember Bixel,
Here and none.
Vice Mayor Franco,
Here and none.
Councilmember Moniz.
Here and none.
Mayor Bublak.
Here and none. All right, approval of agenda is posted or amended.
So
Are there
moved.
any amendments? Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a motion
Sorry. Second.
and we have a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco.
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz.
Yes.
Mayor Bublak.
Yes, passes 5-0. Presentation with Love Turlock. Director Sims, are you handing it off? What do you got there? You got Dr. Platt. What do you got going on?
So from Love Turlock, we have Lindsay Platt and for the Love Turlock Committee. Melanie, sorry.
Yeah.
We have a
Can you,
video to start with.
can you pull the mic just a little closer? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you. Do you want to go backwards and let them get that in? Is that be all right? Okay, we'll have the police presentation first. Thank you. This way I'll give them time to get that loaded.
Just kidding.
Chief, don't go too long because Dr. Platt has patients tomorrow morning.
I would make it quick. Don't mess it up. No. Perfect. Madam Mayor, members of the council, Turlock residents, I'm very proud to present the police department's 22 annual report tonight. This is an opportunity for us to talk about some of our challenges, but also highlight the incredible work that the police department staff has done throughout the year. We've had a reorganization of the police department that's involved a monumental task of moving staff. Excuse me, my clicker's not working. And this annual report follows the 3 divisions added in the reorganization. It also highlights a few areas of the annual report that I wanted to point out. 107,750 were the total number of calls received by the Turlock Police Communications Center. Of those calls, 30% were emergency calls and roughly 70% were non-emergency calls, with an average of 294 calls per day into the communication center. They're incredibly busy. You can see why sometimes when you call, they're placing you on hold. There's 2 dispatchers working and they're flooded with calls. Oftentimes, calls don't just take a couple minutes or a couple seconds. They take longer term. So that may be why some of our residents are placed on hold. We're working on that. We're adding additional staffing. We're at 17 strong in the communication center. So what I want to highlight is that we're constantly looking at and making improvements in this area and providing better services to the residents of Turlock. Out of 107,750 calls, 47,833 were classified as calls for service, meaning an officer responded to the area of that call, or self-initiated activity where an officer assigns him or her to that call, such as a traffic stop or a pedestrian contact, something of that nature. Within these calls, you're looking at a pretty accurate number. We've had our crime analysts back out any administrative time, time that they spent in briefings, car washes, report writing, so you get a clear, accurate picture of what they're actually doing in the field day to day, and that's what this number reflects. We also dispatch for CSU Stanislaus Police Department, and we've backed out their officers as well. So this reflects just the numbers of calls generated and dispatched to Turlock Police personnel. And that's at 131 calls per day on average. The top calls generated were traffic stops at 12 per day, extra patrols at 10 per day, suspicious persons or security checks at 9 per day, and then last follow-up at 7 per day. And this is where officers are going out and following up on a previously reported incident or case. We had 10,773 reports processed last year by police personnel. Of those, 8,283 were initial reports. Our total initial reports taken in 2021 were 8,667, compared to the 8,283 initial reports that were taken in 2022. That's a 4.4% decrease from the previous year. We made 2,591 arrests. In 2021, there were 2,638 arrests. Of those, 2,557 were adult and 81 juvenile. In 2022, as I mentioned, 2,591 arrests. Of those, 2,487 were adult and 104 juvenile. So this is a 1.8% decrease in arrests from the year before. The total number of actual Part 1 crimes that happened in 2022 amounted to 2,465. This is a decrease of 3.9% when compared to 2018 that experienced 2,565 Part 1 crimes. With the total number of crimes on a downward trend and the population of Turlock down to 71,000, the crime rate is also decreasing. So the top line you see on the graph, the projections are based on average of the previous 5 years, and this gives us an idea of what we can expect moving forward as far as crime trends go. And the total Part 1 crimes divided by our population per 1,000 residents gives us an idea of what our crime rate is in Turlock. Our Field Operations Division supports the Animal Services Unit, Code Enforcement Division, Crime Prevention Unit, Patrol Unit, Traffic Safety Unit, Unmanned Aerial Systems Unit, Bike Patrol, Crisis Response Team, Chaplain Program, and Honor Guard. One of the areas that I want to highlight in the Field Operations Division is one of our newest units, and that's the Code Enforcement Unit. It was added to the police department in the city's reorganization. I'm proud to report as of this time, we are fully staffed in the Code Enforcement Division. We brought it over with a staff of 2. It now has a staff of 7. That's 3 code enforcement officers, 2 code compliance techs, 1 code enforcement supervisor, and a staff services assistant to support that unit. And as I've heard from many residents, and all of you can probably attest to that, they're making a tremendous impact on blight in our community. You can see them out in their trucks in downtown, in our parks, around the community, cleaning up. They've made a tremendous impact in the shopping carts that you're seeing being toted around with garbage and debris in them, and I just couldn't be any prouder of the unit. In that short time, they took 4,083 total complaints, 2,881 phone calls. They sent out 677 letters. These are for problems or issues in the community where they're letting business owners or residents know about a potential problem or complaint that they're responsible for. They receive a lot of emails, 1,700 emails throughout the year for various complaints. The team processed 192 no trespass letters. These are used typically when homeless are on private property and there's an issue, we get a complaint. The no trespass letter gives the police department the authority to go out and talk to these people and ask them to move to another location and offer shelter services. 726 vehicles were processed. Those were either tagged or abated or issued citations by the Code Enforcement Division. Our code enforcement division does a lot of graffiti cleanup. They are out in the community. They carry the equipment on their cars so that we don't have to endure and look at graffiti. So they'll document that graffiti, where it's at, and clean it up. And that happened 39 times. But the biggest number that I wanted to point out is the nearly 300,000 pounds of garbage that was cleaned up in effort with the code enforcement team and the public works team in the city of Turlock. If you could imagine that being around our community and our parks, it's a staggering number, but that's a credit to all of the teamwork and collaboration that's going on in the city of Turlock. The neighborhood services officer and the care team work together to provide a number of resources to our community. Our NRO program has been able to alleviate patrol from handling calls for service involving unsheltered persons that could lead to take a longer term to address. The NRO alone responded to 1,283 incidents. Most of that is city ordinance violations, extra patrols around parks or problem areas, special details, abandoned vehicle enforcement. And I talked a little bit about our care team, but not to confuse the care team in Turlock with the county care team that has also made a tremendous impact here in Turlock. Our care team is a collaborative team of 4 officers who receive special training and have a heart to go out and engage and address the homeless population. There's 4 of them. They completed 213 hours of overtime because they're doing this outside of their normal work schedule and responsibility, and they're coming in to make contact with homeless individuals. They contacted 253 in the last year, and that helps us get the care team here helps us get information to the care team in the county, and we're able to collaborate and collect statistical data. So it's a really good marriage of resources. In our field operations division, we had department-wide, we had 86 allocated sworn positions. Our vacancies rose to 11 with some injuries, retirements, some resignations. We had some officers leave law enforcement altogether. We sent 6 police officer trainees to the police academy, and they were successfully sworn in as Turlock police officers. The 3 officers that you see featured on the front cover of this year's annual report completed the field training program during the 2022 year, and that's why they're featured there. I want to talk a little bit about, since we're talking about the vacancy rate, and I'm looking at the 22 numbers, and we just got back to that, but we're currently down to 8 vacancies sworn. So we're making headway. We have 2 in the field training program, and we have 3 going to the police academy. So that's helping us out. We've hired a tremendous amount of people. We've done 107 background investigations in the last year, post reorganization, trying to catch up and hire employees. We continue down that path. So I'm encouraged and confident, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to be full staffed by the end of this year. In total, traffic collisions have reduced greatly over the years. By the stats, it's evident that COVID-19 could be a factor with less persons on the road. So I'll draw your attention to the 2020 stats. We saw when everybody was home with COVID or not working that our traffic collisions dropped quite a bit at 690. And then we saw in 2021 an uptick, and also an uptick in injuries. And we credit that to less people being on the road, and people started driving faster in town. So we're seeing more collisions with injuries, and we're seeing higher speeds as a result. But overall, our traffic collisions are on the downward trend. 16 we reduced by 16 pedestrian collisions, and 21 bicycle collisions. That's a 16% reduction. This is one of the units that I'm pretty proud of. A new unit added in May of 2022. It was announced at a Top Gun video on the police department's social media channel. So I'll ask you to follow us on social media. That's where you get a lot of good information, but you also get to see what the unmanned aerial systems unit is doing in terms of how they're using that technology and deploying it in our community. I wish I could tell you the higher number, but we're talking about the 2022 annual report. So in 2022, they had 27 deployments and 10 apprehensions. This unit it's an officer safety. It's It's a great resource to our community for officer safety, but it's also a great resource to the community. If we can get over an incident, we have a little speaker, we can talk to community members. We may tell somebody, hey, go back in your house, it's unsafe. I'm so excited about the potential of this unit going forward, and I can't wait to highlight their success in the next annual report because the numbers are just growing every day. Our Special Operations Division, which in 2022 was led by Captain Steve Rodriguez, the man there in the back. This unit encompasses our Investigations Division, our Special Investigations Unit, Property and Evidence Unit, Professional Standards led by Sergeant Parmley there in the back, and Social Media Team. Our Investigations Unit within the Special Operations Division handled 231 assigned cases between the 8 detectives in that unit. They closed 192 cases, and last year they investigated 5 homicides. I can't tell you how proud I am of the work of this unit. The closure that they bring to families and victims, just watching them work as I was on my way over here for this presentation. They were talking to a mother and delivering some news about a case, and they just do tremendous work, not only from the investigation, but the follow-through with the families. Of these, we were able to close 2 of the 5 by arrest almost immediately, and then we have 3 pending where we've made either partial arrest or we're working on making arrests. So just outstanding testament to the men and women in that unit. Our Special Investigation Unit, they also supported an investigation during many of these homicide investigations, doing surveillance and a number of other tasks. This team made 98 arrests last year, recovered 30 firearms, and completed 31 search warrants. Most of their investigations are longer term stuff where they're up for a while looking into a specific person or persons or criminal organization. I did deploy them during the summer months, kind of on a trial error, in May, June, July, and August to combat crime and provide extra patrols in the downtown corridor and other hotspots in our community. Because the goal was to look at how we could use this unit a little bit differently and combat crime in Turlock, and going out rather than investigating it like we've been doing, but go out and try to seek it out. And they did tremendous work. They continue to do tremendous work, however they're deployed. They've taken the lead on National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, that's NIBIN. That's where we take ballistics or guns, they're entered into the system. We're able to track them across communities and track them to crimes that firearm has committed. Since they began this work, we've had multiple hits related to gun crimes and Turlock cases. Additionally, we made a hit for a sheriff's department drive-by shooting. The gun was recovered by SIU in a Turlock search warrant, and when they uploaded that information, it connected that gun with that person that they recovered it to a drive-by shooting that occurred in Stanislaus County. So just another example of the tremendous work of NIBIN and that team. In 2022, there were 8,283 reported incidents. Of those calls for service, 2,591 resulted in arrest. Out of the total number of arrests, there were 18 incidents where use of force was utilized. This means that use of force occurred less than 1% out of all arrests made. This statistic demonstrates the high level of importance the department places on diffusion techniques. That's an incredible number to me as the police chief, to see that our officers are out there, they're making 2,500 arrests, dealing with people in our community, and 0.69% of the time they've had to use force. So that just goes, it's a credit to their testimony, their dedication to what they do, and I think that Turlock should really be proud of the work of its police officers. Our Support Operations Division is the newest of the 3 divisions of the police department. This encompasses the business unit, the communications unit, and the records unit, and that's led by Support Operations Manager Amanda Furtado. The records division successfully transferred over to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS, in September of 2022. I'll get into that in just a moment. That unit alone processed 10,773 reports. They processed 2,445 police reports requested. So that's from the DA's office, from residents, PRA, et cetera. Completed 200 live scans and issued 127 bike licenses in our community. The Turlock Police Department closely monitors 5-year averages of 7 Part 1 crime categories. The averages are used to analyze violent crime projections in Turlock. The total count of crimes in 2022 and the 5-year percentage change from 2018 to 2022 for homicide, rape, assault, robbery, burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft are shown. Over 5 years, homicides are showing no change. The rate of rapes, robberies, and assaults are increasing, and other crime categories are decreasing at a substantial rate. Overall, due to the amount of total crimes decreasing over the years, the 5-year average shows a decrease of 8.9% from 2018 to 2022. And to go a little deeper into the robbery categories, the crime analyst continues to look at these numbers almost on a daily basis, looking for crime trends, how we can share information, how we can redeploy resources in a better method. Out of 105 robberies that occurred, most of those robberies occurred in our Beat 3 area of town at 28. Beat 5 was next at 27, and these are residential areas. In residential areas, most of the victims knew the offenders. So this was somebody that was known to the victim. The suspect was known to the victim, a spouse, a friend, a child, somebody that was related and known. Most common robbed items in other robberies were tools, clothing, credit cards, money and cash, and identity documents. Most of our victims were men at 60%, and most of our offenders were men also at 62%. NIBRS, as I've talked about, we transitioned from summary crime reporting system, where there were only 10 Part 1 offenses, to NIBRS from SRS. I want to kind of talk about and compare and contrast what the differences are. So SRS, summary crime reporting, data is collected on 10 crime categories versus NIBRS data is collected on 52 crime categories. So quite a significant change. SRS for incidents involving multiple incident of criminal acts, most serious crime is reported, versus NIBRS, multiple acts, and all crime is reported under NIBRS. SRS data includes crimes against people and property. NIBRS data includes crimes against persons, property, and society. So when we say society, we're talking about narcotics-related offenses, offenses that have an impact on the community, and those are also being tracked now. SRS has limited victim-offender relationship information collected, versus NIBRS has very detailed victim-offender and relationship information. So we're looking at this as a new way to look at data. As I stand up here now, I'm looking at next year and I'm going, okay, how am I going to correlate all of this new information that we're collecting, and how am I going to put it out in a useful way when we don't have a 5-year comparison, as I've been talking about. So we're still working on how we're going to get that out there, but I'm confident that with NIBRS, we're going to be able to combat crime in a better way because we're going to be collecting a lot more information. I can't end this without talking about the great work of the Turlock Police Department employees, and I want to highlight and showcase some of that. Last year at our awards ceremony, our individual awards went to Officer of the Year Martin Marquez from our patrol team, Employee of the Year Yesenia Del Real from our code enforcement team. She was a technician at the time that she received this. She's now promoted to code enforcement officer and is doing tremendous work. Volunteer Jeffrey Bradshaw, Explorer Hayden Elliott. The Excellence Award is a coveted award by police department employees, and this year that went to our property and evidence unit. There's 2 ladies that work in there. They're supported by 2 CSOs. They do tremendous work. They process a number of items coming into and out of the police department, and they're well deserving of that award. Our Meritorious Service Award went to Ryan Mulheim. Distinguished Service Award went to Captain Steve Rodriguez, Lieutenant Russ Holman, and our Supervisor of Records, Lilia Franco. And these awards are all voted on by staff. So the chief's office has a committee. It's selected by different divisions of the police department, and they receive and take in nominations by fellow employees of the police department. And they all sit down as a board and review these, and then they make a nomination to the chief's office. And I always go with what the nomination is that they bring forward, because they spend a tremendous amount of time talking about the good work that the employees are doing when they bring them forward. So it's kind of a coveted process, and I'm just very excited to recognize the employees of the police department every year at this event. We had some retirements last year. After over 31 years of service with the city of Turlock, Captain Steve Williams retired on February 7th of 2022. Longtime Animal Services Supervisor Glenna Jackson. Lieutenant James Silvera also retired last year, but he couldn't stay away. He's back. We promoted 4 lieutenants in the reorganization, so this man has graciously come back to help us train those lieutenants, but also so that they could learn their new roles, take on some of the projects that they've been previously tasked with. And it's worked out pretty well as far as changing the way that the police department operates and helping us to get in a good place as far as fleet and a number of other projects. And one of the ones that I'll highlight that he worked on is our license plate reader project. So been a tremendous benefit. Sergio Perez also retired as a police officer. He's now back working. After a break from work, he got tired of staying home, and he's back working as a background investigator. So he's helping us to fill those vacancies. Mary Souza, my longtime executive assistant, or my short-time executive assistant, but longtime executive assistant, 36 years with the city of Turlock, retired this year. George Gillespie from our background team, and Detective Tim Red retired at the end of last year as well. I want to take a moment to honor our fallen in our annual report. At the end of last year, we sadly lost K-9 Bravo. We salute Bravo and our fallen Turlock police officers for the sacrifice and dedication that they made to our community. I want to highlight some of the police associations. Turlock is unique. We have outstanding employees, and they want to be involved. They want to be involved in their community. They want to be involved in extracurricular activities outside of what they do in the police department day to day. So we have the Turlock SWAT Association. You can see them here featured in this photo at one of our Third Thursday events. They're out promoting community partnerships, talking a lot about what the SWAT team does, and just celebrating with our community. Police Activities League, they're featured here at National Night Out. Turlock Police Canine Association, they're featured here at their Canine Fajita fundraiser drive-through. And then the Turlock Police Association Widows and Orphans at their annual ball. And these groups and organizations they're stepping outside their role as police department employees, and they're working in these organizations to support our community. Many of them offer grants and scholarships to local youth and help out in a number of ways. So I wanted to highlight in the annual report the great work that they do in our community. That concludes my presentation. There's a more detailed version of there, but that's kind of the quick down and dirty that I wanted you to know about. I hope that you take time to review it. I'm going to plug social media. Follow us on social media. That's the best source of information. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Moniz?
Timing is everything. So Chief Hedden, I actually had Diet Pepsi and In-N-Out Burger at the last meeting, but you were not here. So this was supposed to be presented at the last meeting, and now you have your beautiful annual report tonight. We're so proud of our police department and the work that we have gotten accomplished between you and our city manager, and things are great. This right here, we have a citizen in our city that reached out who ended up being the victim of a heinous crime in our town, and a certain police detective in your department went above and beyond And so this person reached out to me and I said, let me check with detectives. So I called another detective and said, what is this detective like? Because there's a citizen dying to do something for this detective. And I was told, oh, he likes Diet Pepsi and fast food. So Detective Brandon Bertram, he's not here tonight, but if you could stop by the chief's office tomorrow or the next day and pick up your Diet Pepsi and your In-N-Out Burger gift card, you've got a very grateful citizen out there who's very appreciative. He went above and beyond a very heinous crime, and we're very grateful. I'm so proud of our men and women in uniform at our department.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to share, well, thank you, first of all, for your presentation and putting this together. And I've had an opportunity in the last, few months in this role to get to work with code enforcement, to reporting, issues of graffiti in my district and speaking to the traffic safety unit. And I just wanted to highlight that, those avenues are there. I went through the normal channels on the normal website. And so I really appreciate the accessibility and the responsiveness of our police department to the needs of our residents, because you have those channels for people to reach out when there are problems. And I think you guys are doing, you mentioned it a little bit in the report. I think you guys are really making good strides on community engagement, especially on social media like we have here, and the community, interactions that you're focusing on. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Other comments?
As always, great job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chief. Are you ready for, all right, love Turlock. Sorry you had to wait, but look what you learned. Do you want to go another? No, just kidding. Here, I'll know.
She's like, please, can I have a turn?
For the record, we were working on this computer earlier, so it is not your fault. It's just a 1976 computer, and what do you gotta do? Good math.
I'm guessing you want the audio there too, right?
Yeah, do wiki. Yeah. You could be an IT guy.
Just a little bit, right?
Reboot.
There we go. There it is. Right? That's a famous t-shirt.
Exists to unite our community,
There we go.
to serve our neighbors, and to meet tangible needs within our city through volunteering. We host an annual event where hundreds of volunteers donate their time, skills, and resources to serve our community in various ways. Everyone is welcome to sign up and serve on one of the many projects. There is a project for all skill sets, ages, and abilities. A few examples include yard work, park cleanup, tree removal, painting, building, gardening, sewing, clothing and food collections, personal visitations, and encouragement cards for seniors and first responders. Love Turlock is held the last Saturday of April each year. The day starts with a morning rally at 8 a.m. Volunteers get checked in, meet their project leader, and celebrate the day before heading out to their projects. To finish the day, we come together again for lunch. This is a time to celebrate all the love we've spread through Turlock and spend time with new friends we've made along the way. Go to loveturlock.com to learn more and sign up as a volunteer. Invite your friends and family to join too. When we come together, we can make a positive impact on our city. Join us on April 29th this year to love Turlock.
So that's just our quick little promo video. I'm Lindsay Plett, and
I'm Melanie O'Connor.
we are co-chairs for Love Turlock. and we want to share a few extra details with you real quick.
Yeah. So this year, April 29th is a Saturday, just a couple weeks away, or just about 30 days away from that. We'll kick off at 8 a.m. at a morning rally at Donnelly Park again. Projects will kick off at about 9 o'clock. We'll disperse across the city, and then from about 9 o'clock till about 11:30, individuals will serve on those projects. Then at 11:30 to 12:30, we'll serve lunch and kind of round out our day.
So to highlight a few of the projects we'll have for this year, we have a handful that happen at Donnelly Park, which is kind of our hub and our main location for the morning. And we've been able to last year work really closely with the Parks Department. They've been a great support, and that went really well. So we're excited to do similar projects there again this year. We are focusing on doing a few additional projects specific for Turlock residents. So we're building a wheelchair ramp. We have a large group who are going to Sun Garden Mobile Village, which is across the street from Donnelly Park, to do some needed projects for the community area as well as specific homes there. We have several projects that we're partnering with our nonprofits here in town, and we have 3 projects we're doing at elementary schools here in town this year, which is new to our list. So we already have almost all of our projects listed on our website, loveturlock.com. We do have a few more that will be getting finished, hopefully by the end of this week. We already have over 100 people signed up to volunteer. We will have over 400 spots. We had over 400 volunteers last year, so we anticipate just as many, if not more, this year. And we're really excited.
We invite everyone to volunteer on April 29th for Love Turlock. We'd love to recognize you for your involvement again this year at our morning rally at the kickoff. And we just thank those that have already volunteered to join us.
So specifically, we want to thank the city for their partnership, both in making projects happen with the Parks Department and other areas through a grant we received to help cover some of the costs for the projects. And we hope to see everyone at Love Turlock, so mark your calendars. It's Saturday, April 29th, and it will be a lot of fun, but we accomplish a whole bunch of wonderful things and meet some real tangible needs, but we also just get to celebrate our community and bring together some good unity for our city. So we would love for you to be a part of it. Any questions for us?
Question? We'll see you out there.
All right, thank you.
All right, you bet. Thanks for waiting, by the way. All right, I think Mr. Goodman, Director Goodman, has a presentation now. God willing, the computer works. Not your fault, clerk.
Puppet if I have to.
Just wing it.
It's actually my fault.
Just go through. George, you got it? You got it?
I think so. I'm being sabotaged.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank you, George.
Madam Mayor, council members, members of the public, it's an honor always to be here. I want to be brief with this because looking at the agenda, I could be up here several more times this evening. So I don't want to use up all my words in one presentation. So while this is part of the roads program, this is really more about the underlying infrastructure that I want to talk about tonight. And so in this slide, this is kind of a depiction, actually it's a really good depiction that the engineering department put together for me. It shows what's underneath the road. And as you can see, there's a lot of infrastructure underneath the road. And for every $1 million worth of road that you put down, $1 million worth of road, you probably have another $1 million worth of infrastructure underneath the road in the form of pipe and valves and catch basins, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot going on underneath the road, and just like the road, there is a limited useful life for the infrastructure that's under the ground. And depending on when that was put in, that useful life could actually be over already, and we could have problems there. Unlike the roads, it's not easy to see the condition of pipe in the ground unless you actually dig up that pipe, which, why would you do that unless there's a problem? So currently, right now in the roads program, we have 14 roads out to bid for construction, and that's great because we have a lot of need for road improvements in the city. Chlorinization is about to go online in the city's water system, and that's going to cause some problems for our water system. New chemical into the mix, it's going to cause leakage. And so it's really important that we get that going and take care of those leaks as much as we can before the new road surfaces go in. Also, the water fund currently is in pretty good shape because we've had about 10 years ago we had a water system master plan update, and we had rate increases that not only took care of the new demand from SRWA, but also helped our water system stay current. However, the wastewater system water fund is really, shouldn't say this, but it's underwater. It's been about 10 years since there was the last rate increase in the wastewater system, and at that time there was a wastewater study that was done, but it was never implemented. So you do that study so that you can see what needs to be done to maintain the system, and then you do a rate study to show how much it's going to cost, or how we're going to spread out that cost over the next 5 years or so. So the goals for the road system don't necessarily align with the goals for the water and wastewater system. We're looking at where we have problems in our utilities, and we're planning to rectify those problems. That's what we're looking at. But those may be under roads that aren't part of the current roads program at all. And so what we're hoping we can do is better align those two programs so that we're taking care of the things that we need to take care of, and roads are being done, as much as possible, roads are being done right after we get done taking care of our pipe in the ground. So where our biggest problem occurs is when there's an emergent issue. That is something we didn't plan for. So we have enough money in our sewer program to take care of maintenance and do maybe one time a year we can do a sewer project. But if something emerges somewhere else, that money for that project gets drawn away from where it's needed to support a problem somewhere else. And that problem, for example, just occurred on Wayside, where we had a problem with valves and pipe in the ground. We had to take water from another project that we had planned to put into Wayside so that could get done before the new asphalt went down. So that's where we run into problems. It's the emergent projects that come up. We're going to skip that one right there. And so really moving forward, where we need help from council and understanding from council is we're going to need help to get our wastewater program back on its feet, back to where it's financially viable, where we can not only address maintenance issues, but we also have money to address emergent issues. So the department has already gone through the process of seeking a company to do a wastewater master plan update. That update is done, and right now we're working on a rate study so that we can accomplish the things that are represented in the master plan. And that in the next month or two will be brought to council for your consideration. That will help us get that fund where it needs to be so that we can address those emergent issues. That's really our biggest problem right now, is just those emergent issues, like what happened on Wayside. And so if we can have support from the council to get that done, we will be able to move the wastewater system in the correct direction. At the same time, tonight on the agenda is the water master plan, where we've gone out with with an RFP to get proposals to do a master plan update for our water system. And if you award that tonight, then that contract firm will be able to go forward with that, and then we will come back with a proposed master plan and the associated rate study probably six months or so from now. And that will help us stay where we need to be with regard to the water system as well. So master planning and rate studies are not necessarily a council's favorite items to discuss, but unfortunately that's where we are, and that's the help we're going to need. And Q&A means question and answer. If you have any questions, go ahead.
Questions for Director? Go ahead.
So do you know, Director Goodman, the exact date that chlorination's gonna go online?
We're looking right now at May 1st.
Okay, and I think this was before you joined us. We had a list of people that we needed to notify to let them know before chlorination actually went into the system. Are you aware of that list?
I'm not aware of that list,
And I
but
don't
I
mean
will
to put
look
you on
into
the
it.
spot with that tonight, but I didn't realize that was gonna come up, so, okay, we'll have an offline conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, being fairly new to this particular position, I would hope that, say Lander, obviously there's a lot of work being done. Before we lay down that final asphalt, I mean, can you assure us that water and sewer under that is where it needs to be before we spend that money? And not just Lander, but everywhere else we're gonna be. I mean,
Makes no point.
it makes no sense to,
You're absolutely right. It doesn't make any sense. However, it is, as I said, it's difficult to know the exact condition of the pipe in the ground without digging the pipe up. And if you're digging the pipe up, you might as well just replace it while you're there. And so what we do, what we can do with the sewer system is we can TV or televise, we can send a camera on a little tractor through the line, and we can look at the condition of the pipe from the inside. And that gives us some information. But unless you're in an area where there's a lot of groundwater, you can't tell. If water is seeping out of the sewer lines, you can't tell. You can only tell if water's pushing into the sewer lines. That's called infiltration. And so you don't know really what the condition of the pipe is just by sending a camera through. In the case of the water lines, because it's a pressurized system, you can't do that at all. And then you'd have to sanitize your whole system after you did that, even if you could. So it's hard to know. Can I assure you? Absolutely not. There is no guarantee,
Well, okay.
no assurance. We do the best we can.
yeah, and I mean, I would just hope that that is being done, you know, the best we can.
It is.
Is the best we can. What do you get by a consulting firm? I mean, when you're talking about the studies being done,
Okay,
help me
so
understand that a little bit more.
So what we're talking about is a master plan update. So that's an understanding of what we have in the ground or at the wastewater treatment plant for that matter. So we're looking at all of that infrastructure and we're looking at the condition it's in and what condition do we need to get that into, what work needs to be done to get it into the proper condition, to make it whole, and what is it going to cost to get there. So that's why we need engineers involved, because they understand all of that infrastructure that's there and what it costs to get in place in today's dollars. And so they can put a price tag on that. Then the next step is to go to financial people who can look at that price tag, spread it out over a number of years and say, this is what it's going to cost to get us to that point. And there's no easy way of putting that. I mean, that's a burden that ratepayers are going to have to endure, because, and this is something that everybody needs to understand, we don't, as ratepayers, we don't pay for the water that is delivered to us. We pay for the infrastructure that allows that water to be delivered to us. And likewise with the sewer, we're paying for that infrastructure that carries the sewage away. Well, obviously not for the sewage itself.
But, yeah.
We already paid for that.
But, I mean, getting back to your question about, obviously, that we've got a tremendous amount of asset that's underground, that
Right.
you're telling me that we can't truly assess what kind of shape it's in.
We can't.
We can, obviously, we can assess anything that's above ground, for the most part,
Yes.
and predict the life of that.
Yes, and we can, there's some facts that we know. We know, for example, what kind of pipe is in the ground. What is that pipe made of? Is it vitrified clay? Is it concrete? Is it iron? Is it ductile iron? Is it PVC or polyethylene? And so we know the useful life of the line, and hopefully we have some information about when it was installed. And so we might know if something's nearing the end of its useful life. But there are other factors that can change how long something actually lasts. And then there are some other things that give us cues about, for example, water and water lines and our valves. We have 4 valves at every intersection. And those valves, if they're operational, that gives us an idea that probably everything else is operational along there. If they're frozen, open, we can't close them, then probably we have other problems along that line.
Can you
Thank you.
assure us that you have somebody working side by side with Mr. Perez, our road doctor? I mean, if he's got all the roads planned out so that it's not political and we're picking, which roads, do you have somebody who's going, we're looking at these streets at the same time as you, so we're doing this? Or are we gonna get to a position where he's got a bunch of stuff ready and your group hasn't looked at it yet?
So there has been people who have been working with Fred on just that. Those roads, because we share the engineering department, we're aware of what's going on.
Okay.
And we're doing our best to go out and assess those streets and TV them, do what we can to know what the underlying infrastructure looks like, so that we can nod and say, yes, this looks good. In the case of a couple of roads that we know are coming, and now I can't remember the names, Park and Julian,
Okay.
I think. So we know that everything there is bad, and that those have got to be taken care of before that paving happens.
Okay.
We know that. We know that about our infrastructure.
Yes, I know.
And so, yes, Carlos, David, those and others have been working on that
Okay.
as much as we can to make it possible for the roads program to move forward. As I said, the biggest problem is just those emergent issues
Sure.
that we just don't have funding for.
Great. Anything else for him? Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you in just a few minutes, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, at this time, I'm going to open public participation. It's time set aside for the public to directly address the city council on any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council, and there'll be 3 minutes. I have some cards written here, so Milt?
Good evening, Milt Treeweiler. This current council may have the distinction of being the best city council Turlock has ever had. Or it may have the distinction of being the worst city council Turlock has ever had. I've lived an entire lifetime here in the Turlock area, and I've seen a lot of change. When I started college at MJC, the population of Modesto was about 40,000 people. I've seen Modesto change from a beautiful city to a sprawling nightmare. There are many people who believe growth is a good thing. There are many people who have made money their god. Those people can range from the poor to the rich. People can have a lot of money and still be unhappy. I'll admit, I was trapped by this myth and folklore myself. I thought a lot of money would make me happy. I bought old cars, model trains, thinking they'd make me happy. I worked long hours to earn money, resulting in the end of my marriage. The mentality today is, if I just had more money, everything would be fine. Money can't buy happiness. Look at Rush Limbaugh. He had a lot of money and he had an opioid addiction. For most people, the more money you have, the more money you spend. That's why 48% of the people making $100,000 or more per year are living paycheck to paycheck. And of all working people, 64% are living paycheck to paycheck. Here in Turlock, too many people worship money. This is their God, whether they admit it or not. One thing I want to emphasize is that a truth and a fact are not the same. A truth is what someone believes. A fact is reality, or what really is. To the best of our abilities, we all need to search for the facts and then be open-minded enough to accept those facts, whether we like them or not. Growth has an expiration date. We live on a finite planet. Our planet is not getting bigger. We need to preserve the best farmland in a world that surrounds our city. Over the last 4 weeks, I have attended the Turlock Irrigation District's Customer Academy. TID is implementing improvements to their canal irrigation systems to provide irrigation water to the farmland surrounding our city for the next 100 years. The city council that saves the farmland will be remembered as the best Turlock City Council has ever had.
John?
John Gebeline. The one thing I wanted to point out today is that I love to watch C-SPAN. Okay, it's my favorite program because it's got every idiot, every great person, every ideology, everything you can think of that goes on in the government. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So, but today they had a report, and this is nothing new, about fentanyl deaths, overdose deaths, 108,000 a year. And we've had a war on drugs for decades in this country. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars have been spent. So, and it hasn't solved anything. I hate drugs. I've seen too many people addicted to drugs, alcohol, nicotine, and everything else. And apparently whatever has happened, there's police officers and all sorts of people who go out to risk their lives to do all this stuff. Well, you know, not much I've ever said good about Hillary Clinton, but she was absolutely right when she says it's a problem that we have to solve within. In other words, whatever. And it doesn't matter whether it's diabetes, which is food, too many calories, or anything else. So I just said that, you know, there's more overdose deaths now than there are every year than there is people who die in traffic accidents and murders. Imagine that. We have those all over the things, but we rarely hear too much about all that stuff. And so, you know, we can sit here and throw people in jail and all the things that we've done over the years. And I was one of those people, throw them away with their drug dealers or smoking dope and all that kind of good stuff, because yours truly doesn't like any of that stuff. I've seen just too many of that type of thing. So anyhow, everybody's got to look in the mirror, and we have to decide what we want as a society, whether we're, you know, going to spend more money on interdiction, on drugs and all that kind of good stuff, which is a big problem, or if we're going to find out how to finally solve it, because they haven't done it yet. And that's so much of a problem. As far as the roads and bridges and stuff like that, nothing. Just kills me than not spending money that we need to do and figuring out what we need to spend and putting it in front of the people. One of the people that I know said we need about $100 million capital improvement bond. Give it a shot. I know nobody will like it, but tough luck.
Assemblyman Alanis, you want to come say hi-de-ho to us, or you just sitting back there and heckling?
Is there anybody else waiting?
Well, no one else has filled out a card, sir. So, yes.
Karen Llewellyn.
Okay. I only had 2 cards, so.
Well, good evening, everybody. I happen to be here in the district. I'm not up in Sacramento right now, so I thought I'd stop by. I saw there's a city council meeting. I just got in on the tail end of the gentleman's comments about fentanyl. It's a big thing going on right now in the Capitol as well. As you guys know, I'm the vice chair of public safety up there. And right now, we are not allowing any fentanyl bills to go through that allow any more days for criminals to stay longer in jail. So just keep that in mind right now. The way I look at it, basically, the cities and the counties are on their own right now. It's just the way it is right now, and it's unfortunate. We are working on getting some other fentanyl bills where we're going after the dealers and trying to see if that works. But right now, as it is, they're not even being allowed to be heard. So that's something that's going on as we speak. And as far as public safety, also, I'll just go there because we had public safety today. Our body worn cameras that we wear, working on having facial recognition right now. Right now, it has been basically told no, we don't want to have this for at least 10 years. It's an invasion of privacy. And I brought up the fact how we can find murderers, kidnappers, maybe missing persons or people who are being involved in sex trafficking or something like that we can help them out with. But it's on deaf ears right now. So that's another thing that's unfortunate. But trying my best to do the fight up there. Kind of outnumbered, but hey, it's still worth it. It's a beautiful state. And I'll be in the back. If you guys have any questions afterwards, I don't know how long the meeting goes till, but thank you for giving me some time.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Who's the next person?
Karen Llewellyn, Miss Llewellyn.
Miss Llewellyn,
Yes.
please.
Thank you. Sorry, my first meeting ever.
No.
Didn't know I needed a card.
No, it's
So-
okay. Welcome.
Okay, thank you.
We'll let Rookie speak. It's okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Good evening, my name's Karen Llewellyn. I work at Northern Refrigerated in Turlock. Our address is 2700 West Main, that's why I'm here tonight. I'd like to discuss what I believe to be a tragic accident waiting to happen, and I want to try to do all I can to prevent it. Here are some of the facts I have. Increased traffic on West Main and Turlock. Increased businesses around West Main, Diane, Franzel, and the Falkirk area. A new storage facility, Amazon, U.S. Cold. U.S. Cold has expanded its footprints, Foster Farms, Cozy Shack, Dairy Farmers, Central Valley Cheese, and others. The lane separation lines are difficult to see, especially at night and in the fog. Each accident I've either been involved in or helped out at, the officer on site has mentioned how bad this intersection is. And my question is it being escalated? And if it is, who is looking at it? We're also a designated Metaflight location. 2 lanes into one heading west on West Mains. Cars significantly increase speed on the right side, which is supposed to turn to Diane to pass the slower trucks in the one regular lane. And I've actually had a driver pass me on the left as I was getting ready to turn left into my business at 2700 West Main. But thankfully I was at a stop and waited. Foggy conditions during the winter months. Our company has a policy that drivers cannot turn left onto West Main if a guard cannot see a certain distance away to keep our drivers and the general public safer. I don't know what that is that they're looking at. That's kept secret by our safety department so that drivers don't try to look at it themselves, but that's a rule we have every year, and I think it saved a lot of lives. Not following the posted speed limit. The speeds seem excessive even when there is traffic at West Main and Franzel, West Main and Kilroy, both east and west of our current location. Diane and West Main currently have a 2-way stop sign. I think a 4-way would be much safer. Trucks need time and space to pull onto the roadway, and without traffic controls, it does make it difficult. I'm not gonna make it. I have an accident kit in my office, which I don't think I have to have, but I feel like I need it because I've gone out and helped several people who have been injured. And just on a personal note, we've had several of our employees hurt, one hospitalized for a long time. I was involved in a serious accident November 20 of 21, and I can say I thought I wasn't gonna meet my new grandchild coming in January, so this is very personal to me. Several of our coworkers have been involved in accidents. I literally have PTSD. I sit in an office on this street and hear sirens, hear crashes, hear screeching of tires, and I run out and I do what I can, but I'd like help from the city of Turlock if they can. And I didn't finish, but I appreciate the time to let me speak.
Your information, if you could fill it out on the blue card and maybe hand it to the last gentleman at the end. No?
I already got it.
You got it? All right, never mind. We will take care of
The
it.
clerk filled me in, so you could get it escalated.
Thank you
All right,
so
so we'll
much.
get the city manager will put the right people together and figure out if we can address a lot of these.
Okay, is there someone that would let me know, or I
I'm
reach
certain.
out, or it would be you? Okay, great.
All right, thank you so much. Others who didn't fill out a card that would like to speak, yes, Mr. Cardenas.
Mr. Cortines.
So
Your name was mentioned the other night.
Yeah, which
Oh,
is why I'm
welcome.
here. So rookie too as well. This is my first time actually
Welcome.
attending a city council meeting and speaking. All
Time's
right, I ran out of time.
already. Look
I'm
at
close. So I just want to say, listen, tonight was really great information. That UAS, the drone system, I watched that video online.
Super
That person
cool.
will give him. He's innocent until proven guilty, but he didn't stand a chance. The drone was all over him.
It was awesome.
And Mr. Goodman with the water, I appreciate and feel his pain. It is hard to guarantee that. You can't guarantee that under. The only thing an engineer can guarantee you is concrete will crack. So, and fun fact too, if you ever get a chance, they also turn all the water valves throughout the city on a regular basis. Otherwise, they'll freeze up and lock up, and you'll have to replace those too as well. So, I've been part of that as well. So, I'll go ahead and start. Got 2 minutes left. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city manager. My name is Jeff Cortines. I'm a licensed architect, structural engineer, and a certified special inspector. I have over 25 years in the construction of both private and public projects. And I'm currently actually set to return to law school this fall. So, good news there. I'm here because last meeting my name was mentioned, and I don't know if there was accusations being thrown around. I kind of got a few texts. So I thought I'd just clear the air. I think it's a lot of disinformation, and if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to explain anything. If they were giving me kudos for my negotiation skills, I'll take credit for that. But, if they were insinuating other items, I'm more than happy to talk to them. I won't mention names. I don't believe in doing that in public. And also, I can only speak to my qualifications. I don't speak to other people's actions. I'm responsible for what I do, not for what others do. The information, like I said, was disinformation. I'll quickly go over it as I'm running out of time. There was a project on the north side of Turlock for a hotel saying that they're not paying their fair share for the roadways and the road improvements currently at Taylor. I wasn't the civil engineer on the project. It was a different firm, a different licensed civil engineer out of Modesto. I was the building structural engineer and the licensed architect. So fact number 1. 2, incorrect owner was mentioned. The person doesn't even own it. As far as I know, they never owned the property. Maybe they owned it at some time, but this is a 20-year relationship I have with the current owner, and we trust each other. So I'm not going to mention their name out of professional courtesy, but incorrect owner. And also, them not paying their fair share, the current owner, development impact fee for that property and that project is $750,000, which doesn't include a new roadway, repaving half the road. Just kind of break it down because I got 20 seconds. That's 220 lineal feet of roadway. That's $3,400 per lineal foot of frontage road. And if you break down per inch, it's $284 per inch. Anyways, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work and dedication, the full council. I think this is going to be a great council, and I wish you guys the best moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Okay, he's already up. Come on. Sorry. Don't know everybody's name, so I don't want to mess up. STC.
I'm sorry, I didn't fill it out either. My name is Javier Caltenco. I'm with the Small Business Administration. And the reason why I'm here is just to provide some information concerning the disaster that we just currently have, which is started between December 27th to January 31st. And the Small Business Administration, we offer low-interest federal disaster loans to businesses of all sizes, most private nonprofit organizations, homeowners, and renters. The SBA during the disaster offers, so the SBA is the primary source of funds to pay for any repairs or replacement costs not fully covered from your insurance. And so we are here in this disaster. Oh man, I can't talk today.
You're doing fine.
Stanislaus County is a contiguous county for this declaration, so therefore those individuals who only businesses can apply for disaster assistance. We have the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is also called as the EIDL or EIDL. Therefore, those businesses who are suffering economically, so if this is a working capital loan, So if they're having a hard time paying their rent, electricity, or any other ordinary expense from their business to keep their business running, they can apply for the economic injury disaster loan. We do have a deadline, which is October 16th. For those individuals, and we do have right now 2 centers that are open in Merced, so they can go and apply in person. I'm not sure until when that's going to be open. We have a business recovery center at the UC Merced in downtown, and we also have at the county fairgrounds, we have a disaster recovery center. I'm not sure until when we're going to have those open. So we encourage anybody who is suffering economically. I mean, they can apply. They don't need to take the loan if they can wait 60 days before they can decide whether they need it or not. And right now, also another thing is that for the first 12 months, they do not have to make any payments, and there's no interest charged for those first 12 months. Sorry. Wow. So I think it's a good thing in case they need it. I just want to thank you. So far we have approved more than $75 million in the for this declaration. Okay.
It's amazing.
Thank you. No, this is for the whole state. Yes, we have like 14 counties, or primary counties. Yes.
Javier, how do our businesses get a hold of you?
Okay, so we have they can call our 800 number, or actually they can just go to online sba.gov. And they can get all the information there. There's a section where is for disaster assistance, and they can get all the information there.
SBA.gov?
SBA.gov, yes.
Disaster assistance.
Just SBA.gov, and then they can look into disaster assistance, and they can look at the declaration.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Appreciate it. Ryan.
All right, so first off, great presentation, Chief. I'm super stoked to see what the police are doing. I went to the police pizza with the police, and I got to talk to many of them personally, and just stoked to see the great things that the department's doing for the city. And another thing is potholes. I talked about this last week, but also I'm glad to see that Taylor, there was a massive pothole there. It was like a tire ruiner. Like if you were going 55 on Taylor and hit that pothole, I'm surprised no tires got blown out because of it. But that recently got filled in, so I'm so thankful for that. Appreciate it, and I just hope that is able to, like, when we can dodge the rain and we have dry days, we're able to get these roads fixed and properly maintain them, like I said earlier, because this weather is just throwing off our streets completely, and we need to be able to fix them and maintain them, of course. So I'd like to also see funds like Measure L, I believe, or Measure A, half of it's going into road repair right now. I'd like to see more push for road repair and for these projects to be able to start continuing and start prospering and such, so we can start getting the proper streets that the Turlock people deserve, because I'd like to drive on good roads as a DoorDasher. My entire career is just driving around the streets of Turlock, so these roads greatly affect me, and driving through your neighborhoods and such, I'd like to have nice roads to go through. So anyway, thank you.
Ron?
Good evening. I'll send you via email my prepared remarks because some questions came up. So to the police chief, you mentioned, I think it was 253 contacts by the care team. I was wondering if those were unduplicated contacts or multiple contacts with the same person. If you have information about that, would be good. And also, just in general, we really appreciate having a trustworthy police department. That's very important, and the citizens really appreciate that. And just on a personal note, I actually don't know how you personally do all the things that you handle. So we appreciate that. Okay, so thank you. Have some questions for Mr. Goodman about the water quality control plant that's at 50% of capacity because it hasn't been properly maintained for the past 20 years. I'd like to be able to learn more about that. I mean, that's kind of a big general question, okay? Would like to know how much capacity of that is needed to meet the needs of Turlock. How close are we getting to the point to where we're going to have difficulties meeting our own needs? And if I understand correctly, maybe I don't, but the processed water from that is sold to a West Side irrigation district. If that's the case, if this plant was at full capacity, could we sell more water, make more income? And also, dare I mention the purple pipes? Okay. Well, my concern would be that we would not be able to do that concept if the plant is not at full capacity. So those were, and also when you talk about drugs, I'm sure you've heard about the zombie drug on the East Coast. That's going to be heading our way. Yeah. So, I don't know. Very sad. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. Hold on, let me just get started because I have to get my glasses on. I have several questions. Chief Hedden, I appreciate your report. I missed part of it. But I would like to know how many unsolved murders there are in the city and what areas of town they occurred in based on the current city council districts. And I, too, will email you every one of my comments. At the last meeting, I believe Mr. Bridegroom asked about the $14 million spent on road repairs in the city of Turlock this year. There were about 20 roads which were slated to be fixed, and so I'm sort of looking at where that's going to happen. My main concern tonight is about the lack of recreation activities currently being offered by the city of Turlock for our young people. I have 4 daughters, 2 who are still at home and quite active. I learned how to swim at Columbia Pool. Yeah, they're very active. Amy's smiling. My daughters also learned to swim at Columbia Pool through a City of Turlock swim program, and I know that is a very viable program we're still doing. I asked at our last meeting, what are we going to do to help the West Side children get to Pittman or Turlock High School pools to swim this summer because Columbia Pool is closed. I didn't hear back from that. But my issue is there's not a single city-run, city-led athletic program that could be a part, that my girls could have been a part of to learn basic skills of team sport. There are private, quite expensive programs in our area that are co-ed. And if you're in junior high, you are not going to, the girls are not going to play with the boys because the boys aren't going to pass to the girls. We had this issue at CSU Stanislaus, and luckily the coach, Trevor, was amazing. And somehow they got the kids to play together. But that was only 3 days, not like an 8 to 10 week league. We can drive to Modesto, but you know, I know just 7 or 10 years ago, because one of my daughters, the oldest daughter, they have 3 children, bless you, there was an indoor basketball program run by the city. I want that for our future children. My kids are gone. They're in high school next year. But we as parents, we're working to supplement the junior high programs, and luckily we have parents who know how to coach and can help them out. But it's really sad. I mean, the National Little League program I know runs a softball league for the girls to play in Denair. And so it's just important. I'm sure Chief Hedden will argue, Chief Hampton used to say, if our kids aren't busy, they get in trouble. So we need to keep them busy. Lastly, it looks like we're working to privatize a private athletic sports facility at the corner of Monte Vista and Gear. And again, it just appears to me the majority of this council is privatizing city jobs to private organizations, which I'd rather see the youth sports being done by the city. And the one question I would like answered this evening is the city running the T-ball program? And if they aren't, I'd like to know why. And I have 17 seconds just to stare at you, but I'm not going to do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nothing.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Mike Warda. I was contacted by a couple different people indicating that there's been comments recently about the firehouse operations out at Main and 99. From our understanding, we're not having any security issues out there at all. We think that we're operating a very good business out there, and we think we're keeping the area safe. That's sort of like the number one point I want to make. We've had recent inspections from the city of Turlock's consultants. We've passed those inspections. We've had inspections from state of California. We've passed those inspections. I did a public records request to the school district to see if there's any students or parents complaining about the operations, because Osborne School is not too far. I've informally heard that there is none, but the response, they've asked to extend my date for the response to April 6th while they're looking. I will tell you what I did learn was that our school district doesn't have a school that's operating at the average level of math reading in the state. We don't have one that's operating at the average level of the reading. But we're graduating the most students that any school district is graduating. So write your school board members and see if they can pay attention to that issue. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, we will close the public comment time and we'll move on to a motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Will you call, boom, yeah.
Sorry, go.
Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. Slow down. Okay, so the consent item, there is item D, David. Councilmember Bixel has asked to pull, and Milt asked for item F, Frank. Are there any others? If not, a motion?
Motion to approve consent calendar minus D and F.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Item D, David, Councilmember Bixel.
Yeah, in reviewing this request and I guess it's the tight side of me, when I saw.
Like it.
What's that?
I like it.
Well, when I saw, 4 new vehicles, and the bottom line, what those vehicles were costing to lease, when I saw the estimated miles that those vehicles will be used, I think in my little head, I came up with we're gonna be paying about $2 a mile, which seemed absolutely ridiculous. And now maybe my math is off there. It just, to me, if you're, somebody's gonna be driving a vehicle for 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 miles a year, let's buy something with 40 or 50,000 miles on it that is in decent shape. Let's drive it, spend half the money we would on a new one and save the city that much money, because I think we got roads and pipes that need to be fixed.
Director?
Tell me where I'm wrong.
Sure. So glad to be back at the mic. So this is a lease agreement that we're looking at with Enterprise Fleet Management. First thing to understand is that the vehicles that they purchase are all purchased on a state contract. So a $45,000 pickup, for example, they will buy for $30,000. So there's $15,000 of equity already built into that vehicle. And that, just hang on to that number in this example so that you can see why this does make sense. When we're looking at a number of different factors in this lease agreement. What they're trying to do is to lease the vehicles at the lowest cents per mile that they can possibly do it. And so depending on the vehicle, a lease can be for 24 months, it could be for 36 months, it could be 48, 72, whatever. They determine what is the optimal point to turn that vehicle in and sell it for the maximum amount that they can sell it for. And so for example, they buy that vehicle for $30,000. We spend $10,000 a year on a lease. At the end of that lease, we put $20,000 into a $30,000 vehicle. They turn around and sell that vehicle for $35,000 because it's only 2 years old and it only has 10,000 miles on it. And they can sell it for almost new. The miles are very easy miles. And so they sell it for $35,000. They need 10 of that. We end up with $25,000 of equity. So that $2 per mile is just one way of looking at it. The equity stays in the program, and it's our equity. They don't take that equity. It's our equity. It's not Enterprise's. So that's where this really starts to pay off. And so then we take that equity and we roll that into a new vehicle, and we lease it for another 2 years. So on the upside, we always have vehicles that we know are running at their very best. They're the latest vehicles. They're getting the best mileage. They have the lowest emissions. They're always ready to go. We never have to have them in the shop for anything. Well, on a 2-year lease, you won't need a brake job. You'll need 2 oil changes, at the miles that we're putting on the vehicles, we'll maybe need 2 oil changes. That will be the extent of our maintenance. And you won't need to put tires on them, you won't need any brakes, you won't need, anything else will be covered under warranty. And so we know that we always have optimal vehicles for our people to use, and they're in great shape, and they're gonna get them to where they need to go and their equipment where it needs to go, without any problems at all. And so those are the big upside of the lease program. They take care of selling the vehicles. They sell them for the maximum they can get for them. And based on their program, they're very successful at selling those vehicles because there is a market out there for used vehicles. And these used vehicles are in great shape.
I would guess that, why aren't we buying those used vehicles then?
We could buy those used vehicles, but we would spend a lot more money.
In the short term, but I think over the life of the vehicle.
We will actually save money by not owning vehicles. In the end, we will save money by not owning vehicles. And the reason is because of how much, if you buy that vehicle, the normal thing that is done is you buy the vehicles and you run them until the wheels fall off, and then you sell them for $200 for somebody to come and haul them away, basically. And so during the course of that long life, that 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, you're putting more and more money into maintenance. With the leased vehicles, you're putting no money into maintenance. So your costs go up. The longer you operate the vehicle, the higher the cost goes per mile. And your vehicles become less and less fuel efficient, and they emit more and more compared to the newest vehicles. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to go down this road. Now these 8 vehicles actually that we're looking at right now, 2 of them are electric. The other 6 are gasoline vehicles. They will all be run at the new water treatment facility.
Weren't the 2 of them like just utility carts, those are electric ones?
They're made by GEM Polaris. They're actually street legal. They have a pretty substantial wheelbase, not like a golf cart. They will have a service body on them, ladder rack. They will be for use just on the plant itself. And they will be plugged in every night. And so they're plug-in electric vehicles. They're not hybrids.
Other comments, questions? Questions for him. Whew, you almost got
This
me.
isn't like a standard lease, obviously, correct? It's almost like an equity lease.
It is an equity lease, and yes, I've looked at leasing vehicles for personal use, and that makes absolutely no sense, because I cannot buy a vehicle on a state contract, and that's why it doesn't make any sense. But for this purpose, for a city, it makes really good sense.
I'd just like to sit down with you and have you prove to me that it's cheaper.
I can do that.
Probably should have done it before tonight.
Would you prefer not to order this until then, or?
Personally, but I'm just.
We could table that.
Are we on a time sensitive, or can you do 2 weeks?
Well, we do need to get the vehicles. This is for the water treatment plant, and so we are under some time constraints. They have no vehicles. Where I'm looking at doing this for the municipal services department, we have vehicles, and so we can continue to operate with the vehicles we have. One of the things that they will do for us, Enterprise will do for us, is they will take the vehicles and they'll sell our current vehicles at the front end and take that equity and put it into our lease the very first year. With these vehicles, these will be the first vehicles that the SRWA will have, and so there won't be any equity right up front until vehicles are rolled over.
So we have vehicles that would tidy us over for 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, yes.
Thank you.
What's your request? Well, I've got to open
you
it
gotta
up,
open it
but.
to the public.
Okay, thank you for that, I gotcha. All right, let's open it to the public, yes.
Me this time?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess because we're saving money on this 2-year lease, are we then taking that money we're saving and putting it in a fund where we can then buy these vehicles outright later, like brand new models? Because after these 2 years of leasing these vehicles, I don't see then what, are we just going to re-sign a lease and then just have this process go over and over? Because over time that's going to get more and more expensive. These leases are bound to only go up like everything else is. So I'm just concerned about, I guess, long-term growth for this kind of vehicle and such.
Yes.
Okay, if you can look on your monitor, and if you turn to page 129, which is item 5D, there's a chart there, the Turlock, City of Turlock SRWA vehicles, menu pricing. I think the important thing I want you to look at, if you can get that on your screen, is the bottom part of this chart in red, in very small writing. There's some exceptions here. And I can't necessarily read it myself because it's so small. Let's see, based upon simple, can anyone find that?
Can I read it to help
Pie
them out?
chart, please, yes. Yes,
The fine print in the red says lease rates are based upon sample estimated stock vehicle pricing and miles per year. Maintenance includes one set of brakes and no tires. Do you want me to read all 4 lines?
Yes, please.
Pricing does not include any applicable taxes. Pricing does not include expected return on equity at end of lease.
So what I'm looking at here is there are exceptions, and then if you look at the price that you have listed in here, which sounds like a good price to me for 8 vehicles, is that true? It's all 8 of those vehicles?
That's correct.
But it's not stated as that is the price. It says based on preliminary quotes received, the total amount cost to lease the 8 vehicles as specified to EFM, the annual amount of the lease for the first 2 years will be $83,000. But it's saying that's a preliminary quote, plus you've got the exceptions. So what is the actual cost? In one of the items that was approved tonight, we had not to exceed $1.5 million. But here, we should have, I believe, some kind of not to exceed $100,000, because how do you know what the price is going to be? You're just estimating, or it's a preliminary quote. It's not the actual price you're going to pay, and that's what worries me, the fact that in the end, we're going to pay more than this price, which I don't think would be a good idea. So I'll take answers, thank you.
You want it? One more. Anybody? Oh, yes. It's his hand.
How many people are going to be working out that plan at any one day?
So on it, it's going to vary from time to time during the day. We will have, because it has to be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So at night, there will be just one person on the plant. During the day, there will be anywhere from 5 to 7, including the plant manager, the operations supervisor, junior operators, mechanics, and so on. In fact, it could be more than that. It could be as many as 10.
That's fine. So for 7 people during the day, we have 8 vehicles.
Okay, yeah, and I did say 7 to 10.
Okay. 8 vehicles. And these people are, I'm assuming, driving their own cars to the place. And for the most part, their job is to monitor what things are going on and fix if things go wrong. Why do we need 8 vehicles for 7 people? Plus, we have a 3/4 ton, a 1/2 ton truck, a Ford Explorer. That's not a high mileage, low emission vehicle in my mind. No. If you want to get them a Fusion hybrid, that would be that. The same thing happened in transit where we have 2 employees and 3 vehicles for them. Buy 4. I mean, I can understand the carts. That's a good use. But the other thing, you're just buying because money's available, I guess. I don't know.
Anyone else?
This is a ringer.
Oh, he brought one up.
Hello, my name's Christian. So I'm from Enterprise Fleet Management. I may be able to help address some of your questions about buying a used vehicle compared to a new vehicle. So buying a used vehicle, they don't qualify for any government incentive. So you're buying the vehicle essentially for what the vehicle is worth. So when you go out to market and buy the vehicle, the cost of a new vehicle and the cost of a used vehicle are actually almost the same. The new vehicle can be less because of the large incentive that's provided by buying a new vehicle. So as Dale mentioned, the incentive on those can range anywhere between from $8,000 to as high as $11,000 or $12,000 on a brand new vehicle. The depreciation on a used vehicle is going to be almost the same if you buy a $40,000 or $50,000 vehicle, especially for the vehicles that we'd be looking at. So, and to his point, running them for an extended period of time, maintenance on the vehicles, fuel efficiency on the vehicles. That's why we're looking at the lowest total cent per mile on the vehicles and a total cost of ownership. From the day you buy the vehicle through the day the vehicle would be sold, what is the true cost of that vehicle? Maintenance, fuel, overall operation of the vehicle, because the three largest expenses when it comes to a vehicle are maintenance, fuel, and then ultimately the depreciation. So those are the three factors we look at.
Well, I understand that, but we're talking about an estimation of 5,000 to 6,000 miles per vehicle, which is nothing. I mean, to me, that's absolutely nothing. It's like we're, show me where I'm not spending $2 a mile to drive the car.
Yeah, so I think if you're calculating out the monthly payment or the total cost over the term, then we're not recognizing the equity at the end of the vehicle. So when we're factoring that in, that's going to drastically reduce that amount.
What is that number?
So the dollar amount, I think it's pulled on the actual page. That shows the equity dollar amount on there that we'll sell the vehicle for.
Well, estimated.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's estimated equity,
Minus
so that's-
collision,
minus what?
minus collision, things of that nature, right? I mean,
Those are all included.
oh, okay.
Yep. So we include where we factor in wear and tear. There's no mileage restriction on our leases. There's no wear and tear charges. They're designed to be flexible. We work with over 250 government agencies throughout California, cities, counties, municipalities, school districts, and doing just this. Most of them run about the same mileage. Our traditional government mileage runs anywhere between 5,000 all the way up to about 15,000, depending on a water district. You may go a little bit more. But we, for example, the city of Riverbank, we have a lot of their vehicles that are on 24-month terms that are running brand new vehicles and are going to see a true cost reduction. Same thing with the city of Clear Lake, which is where we work with and have worked with for quite a while, and being able to reduce their overall cost.
Okay, I'm not convinced that the government's always the smartest business person when it comes to buying and selling. And
Yeah.
I just need to have it proven to me. Thank
No,
you.
of course. And that's why, and to your point, that's why we're really good at it. We operate over 2 million vehicles in the U.S. As enterprise, so we are really good at buying and selling vehicles. So that's why we were able to take advantage of some of those opportunities for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna close the public comment and bring it back.
So, Mayor, Mr. Puffer's comments and Mr. Treeweiler's comments are valid and well received. So I'm going to motion to table this to the next meeting
Which
so
is
that we can get Councilmember Bixel the answers that I think we all need.
April 11th, is that acceptable, Director? You can make it?
Hey, I work for you.
Well, you have a lot on your plate. I want to make sure that makes sense.
That's fine.
It's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay, so that is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll call the roll, please. Thank you, Director.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. We will bring this back on the 11th. Thank you, Director. Item F, Frank, is pulled by Mr. Treeweiler. Let's go ahead and open the public comment. Will you go ahead and bring your question and forward, please?
Okay, first of all, I wanted to thank you for the presentation you made previously regarding even some of this here, the fact that these engineers, what they'll be doing. I think what I wanted to clarify was the fact that, and I think you even mentioned it, first of all, they're going to be finding out what's wrong or what's needed with the system, and then they're going to find out what it's going to cost, and then we can look at rates. But the thing we know, or the thing I think we all know, is that we have a conjunctive, or will have a conjunctive water system at the end of this year. At least we've been promised that, and hopefully that will come into fruition. But what that means is that with a conjunctive water system, a tiered rate is necessary and legal. Rates charged to customers must correspond to the actual cost of providing water to the customers in each tier. And examples of these close by are Central Valley cities are City of Madera. They have a 3-tiered water billing system because they have conjunctive water like we do. In other words, they have 2 ways of obtaining that water. We're obtaining it from the wells by pumping it out of the aquifer, and we're obtaining another portion of it at the surface water treatment plant. The thing is that at the surface water treatment plant, this water is costing us more. It's more expensive to produce potable water at the surface water treatment plant than it is to produce it out of the ground. So this is what gives us the right and the necessity of doing this. City of Merced has a two-tiered water rate billing. City of Tracy, of all things, they have a 4-tiered water billing rate. I don't know if they have 4 different sources of water, but anyway, that's what they have. City of Stockton has a 2-tiered water billing rate. City of Manteca has a 3-tiered rate with a garden incentive program to replace lawn and shrub, and City of Clovis has a 3-tiered water billing rate. So then I'm assuming that after this has been done, this work has been done by this company, we'll find out and we can get our tiered rate, which is an incentive to save water because it costs more from one source than the other source, and it's done scientifically. It's not random chance. The last one actually, well, there was one done. It came out at 23,000 gallons. 0 to 23,000 gallons was one price, and over 23,000 gallons was another price. But we need one that corresponds to what we have today, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Want to go ahead and answer that so that before we ask any other questions, you might nullify any more questions?
Okay, so as far as tiered system, I've seen that done in other cities. We don't currently do that here. That's something that we could certainly look into and come back with recommendation to council. That is something that we can't decide as staff. It's something that you would have to decide. But we can certainly look into that and see what's being done in other cities. It obviously hasn't been considered here yet, but maybe now's the correct time to do that.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment and bring it back. Are there questions or comments for the director?
Is the analysis of a tiered rate system or, other potential for water saving incentives going to be part of the report that we're getting back in this water master plan and rate study?
I don't believe that was intended, but we may be able to, is there any way to put that into the master plan? Do we have to completely start over? So let me back up. When you start to change things at this point, by adding something, we might have to go back out for proposals because you can only do so much changing without people starting to get upset. Hey, you're talking about a different project now. We need to be able to bid on this new project. So you're very limited as to how big that change can be financially. And so I don't know. I know it's not built into the current project. It might be easier to treat it separately.
What is the will of council?
Okay. Right.
Different scope. Okay, what is the will of council?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second on item F. Frank. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram? Yes. Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. Thank you, Director. All right, we have a final reading, second and final reading of the ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Turlock, California. Attached Title 9 of the Turlock Municipal Code. Open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on it? Closing public comment, bringing it back. Motion second?
Motion to approve?
Yeah.
Second?
Motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. All right, no public hearings. Action item 8A, adopting a cell phone stipend policy citywide. Director Moreno. Tell us, save money.
I was just gonna say, tell us how much money we're gonna save.
All right.
Peter likes me to work.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Nobody else got that. Chief, did you notice? Worked right for him. Money touch. Midas.
I'm going to replace you. Don't worry about it. So today's conversation, I had agenda. First off, thank you, Mayor, Council members. The item before you is a policy, one that we've been talking about, discussing internally for a little while now. One of the things I noticed coming to the city almost a year and a half ago is everybody has a cell phone. Why? What's going on here? So what I really wanted to dive into this policy and kind of bring to fruition something you're starting to see from other cities that have more of a hybrid of how we deal with our overall cell phone, our policies, and how we utilize technology too as well. Basically, what you're seeing is a standard reduction of having to manage these plans where you're coming into an overhead factor of staff having to deal with it, replacement practices and things of that nature. We'll get into the financial part of it, part of the slide, but I kind of want to give you an overview of how we got here and what we're kind of working on. So we do manage within the purchasing department over 100 cell phones. Again, we have them over a period of terms of years. We're having to purchase them periodically, make sure they're in the budgets, and make sure we manage the overall practice. So let's go dive into the slides and kind of talk a little bit more. So within the topics of these slides, we'll have three primary categories. Policy summary, just kind of an overview of what you'll see within the document. Financial impacts, what it costs to transfer into this, as well as what the savings potential would be, and public records request. Public records request is really a topic within this because this overall policy did go to all bargaining groups, and that was really a comment that came through. So I want to make sure we address that. Although it's been addressed with the groups, just make sure that we have a formal conversation about it. So first one, policy summary. The proposed policy is drafted to reduce the number of cell phones that are managed by the city. You'll see a little more about down in the slides on what that means as far as how much time is actually put into it. The exhibit pre-identifies eligible positions. What that means is we sat down with all directors and say operational logistically what makes sense, right? Every department, every position has different needs on a technology basis, whether it's tablets, cell phones, or whatever it may be, radio systems, and how we communicate. It's really having a formal conversation on what that means and how do we be efficient financially and also technology-wise. Within the policy itself has a tiered system. The system is based off of usage. It's not based off what it costs to do the policy or the plan. It's not based off what the plans are when you go and get your own phone. It's really based off a system in which you are tiering down the usage in which an individual is. So the individual, a standard city employee versus, let's say, a director, their volumes are quite different between the two, and that's why you'll see a tiered system. There are different practices that are out there by cities and how we do these things. We kind of took multiple policies and kind of merged them to what we feel met best for our city. So on the financial side, this is kind of the overhead factor when we talked about staff and what we're having to do on a monthly basis. So as you see from the IT department, you'll see about 5 hours per month coming in. And this is managing different things from emails to why my phone doesn't do a certain format or text or app or whatever that may be, or managing the different service that we have, which is the MDM. In the purchasing department, on average, you'll see about 20 hours per month, and you can see their factors and their rates and how that calculates out with both positions at about $2,200. Okay, so this is an average. You can ramp up, you can ramp lower. When we have large impacts as far as, for example, 3G just went away. It took us about a month to actually go through that project in the purchase department. So we ramped up really hard, and that's not factored into the proposal, but it's something that you have to be mindful of, that we do have other impacts that impact that. So within the staff report, we talked about cost determination. So one of the things that really entices me to get away from this practice too, as well, is every time we do execute a new phone, we are now tied into a 2-year contract. So to eliminate that, it's kind of going away from that practice and moving into more of a stipend policy. So now to get into the overall financial aspects of the whole thing. So for the difference from the monthly stipend versus our monthly cost of doing services right now, you're actually seeing a cost increase for the stipend basis, right? Because what you're actually seeing is when we sat down, we again, logistically talked to all directors, and what that meant, they actually added positions in which you're going to be utilizing the service. Although we dropped quite a few, the overall average kind of balanced itself out. So not a large impact overall. You see about 1,200, but that was really because of an increase on both sides. So some of the plans are really small, and some of them are really high, depending on how they determine usage. Purchasing the phone. So what you'll see here is actually a monthly average of over 3 years. So you do have a substantial amount that's going into that to actually break that down to a monthly basis. But average on what we see as a cost replacement for a phone, about on average every 3 years, about $475. Okay? So reduction of staff time. IT won't be impacted overall, but the purchasing department will. You'll actually see about a reduction of about 15 hours. So that overall 20 will reduce to 5 on a monthly basis. So if you take that and multiply it into an annual basis, you see an overall savings of just over $12,000. So going into the public records request. So when the city started getting into cell phone plans, the topic was about public information and requests that it needs to go out. So kind of managing that in a better format. Well, in current legislation or current activities, in 2017, there was a court case with the city of San Jose. And basically what came out of that is that any individual utilizing a personal phone for city business does not immune them from public records request. So the deterrent, the format in which they did these things was really about public records requests, but now with today's activities in court cases, you really are subject to both phones, regardless of what you do. So that deterrent or activity in which we do this format, again, pushes us into a different direction on how we manage the overall practice. Is there any questions?
Questions for Director?
I do. Can you clarify some of the duties that purchasing is having to do to manage the city-owned cell phones now?
Sure. So whenever somebody needs to order a new phone, they're doing that. Whenever contracts come up, they need to be managed. They're processing the bills and making sure they're managing the rates appropriately, managing usage, kind of flagging it if something kind of spikes for some reason. They really have to go into the detail of the plan over itself as they process through the contract part of it, as well as the invoice and paying the bill.
And the staff report kind of, maybe it is lumping together purchasing and what IT is doing, but in terms of like the troubleshooting and the, app installations, password resets, is that all duties that would still fall under IT, or is that something that's happening in purchasing?
Primarily, a lot of the stuff falls into, because we deal with the phones on a daily basis, for the most part, they can help them on some of the preliminary stuff. If it gets a lot more technical, they do have to shift into the IT where you'll see those hours. But since, again, we've been doing it so much, we've been able to manage a lot of situations that come up. So, for example, if somebody needs to set up an email, they're able to reset that, reinstall it, and get it up and going.
Can you go back to the slide that has the spreadsheet? Yeah. So the reduction in staff time, that's, you said only the 15 hours of purchasing?
Correct. So reduction from 20 to 5.
And we're not changing anything in purchasing, right? In terms of employees, like we're still going to keep the same.
Correct. So the overall level of service is still there. Basically, what it'll do is be able to give them better service on every avenues that they do. So, for example, getting contracts through into the system, managing purchase orders, or reviewing stuff that they really should be doing.
Okay, so that savings there, that's not really a cash savings, that's more of an efficiency savings, right?
Correct.
So we're not gonna see that on our bottom line.
Well, you'll see it in essence, they're shifted into something else, but yes, the overall salary savings is not a general savings. It's more giving you a unit measurement where they have that potential impact on a financial basis.
Okay, and in terms of seeing like the bottom, the $12,000 a year, that's not taking into account necessarily the termination charges.
So the
There's
termination charges that are in the staff report, that was actually developed about a month ago. So we've actually, it tiers down every single month, so that month, that dollar amount has actually dropped since then. In addition to that, we'll be phasing in these items to try and mitigate that as much as possible. In addition to that, we will look at potentially suspending some lines for 90 days up to be able to minimize that as well. So we're managing that as we go through the process. As you can see, we got a lot of phones we got to go through to get this to occur, as well as working in conjunction with payroll to get this process taken care of. We have to phase it. So we'll start going through the process, identifying those individuals that are impacted to make sure that we can manage that financial responsibility too as well.
Okay, and just one final question. So the 15 hours that we're expecting to not have to spend in purchasing mostly, I mean, those duties still just, that's part of having a cell phone, right? And managing a cell phone individually. So in theory, those hours are just being spread to other employees.
So when you think about the plan itself and how you pay the bills, right? Most individuals already have a plan. They already have their own personal phone. So they're not incurring additional duties in that sense of the way. The only thing that's really going to change is they're going to add their email to their personal phone. That's really all that's going to happen. Some individuals may add the app or something to that nature, but there's no incurred cost in that standpoint. So that process in which they're doing things is already built into their daily activities.
Unless they choose to have a second cell phone line, right? I mean, I
That
could
is their-
imagine,
that is
you
their
know,
option.
instances of any number of us and building inspectors and such not wanting to give out their personal numbers, so.
So we talked
that's-
about that too as well when we talked about directors and that concern. So there are formats in which we can do. So for example, my personal line. If I don't want to give it out, basically they can route it to their desk phone and it'll ring directly to their cell. So there is different formats in which we can mitigate that if an individual want to give it out directly, so they can assist in that format.
Other questions for Director Moreno? Okay, let's open it to the public.
Bob Puffer. So, you came up with these numbers, correct?
I did.
Okay. So, the cost per month on your difference between monthly and versus stipend is an increase of $1,267. So what we're saving is on the replacing of the phones and reduction of staff time. So in 3 years, when all the phones have been done and you have no more staff time, then it's going to cost us $1,267 more a month in 3 years, right? When we're out of it. That was my first thought. My second thought is, and you had brought this up to start, everybody in this room has a cell phone. So why don't we just make it a condition of employment with Turlock that if they need to contact you on a cell phone, that you're required to have a cell phone and not reimburse it. And then we'd save much more money. Now, if they want to add a second line, that can be worked out as far as adding the second cost of the second line. Because people are all going to have a cell phone, whether they're for a business or not. You're just trying to, the only advantage the person's going to get is not having to carry 2 cell phones, which would be big for them, I would think. I don't think what the city of Turlock should be paying for that. Thank you.
Go ahead and answer those if you'd like.
Sure, we have it too. So the first one, savings over 3 years. So it's, if you look at the chart itself, yes, it's looking at 3 years, but you're not having to purchase those after the next 3 years too as well. So you're not getting to that same rotation of equipment. So you're still having those overall savings. And again, for the staff time, it's still there. So they're not dedicating their time to doing this. So the overall format does not change. So you still, you don't tier it as far as what it looks like. So in other words, we're not compounding it. It's just how the savings work annually. So as far as why don't we have the employees pay for their own? This is a policy decision. This is best practices which we look at. Most cities have some type of hybrid model or they're paying for it. I've seen that on the public side and the private side. So this is just a tool in which we utilize for technology.
Anyone else? You've already spoken, sir. Anyone else? Okay, let's close the public comment and bring it back. What are the comments?
I know the new cell phones, you can actually have 2 SIM cards in and have 2 separate lines. So you could have two lines in one phone.
You can even get an
staff
app
members.
to issue you a phone number. You can do in that format too. So there's different ways to get around things and do things that they need.
Any other comments, questions, or what is the will?
Move to approve.
Your motion? Second. And a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
No.
Councilmember Bixel?
No.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes with 3-2.
Thank
You,
you.
Director. All right, the next one is Director Goodman. It is your night.
Boy, he's a busy guy.
All right, approving a professional service agreement in form approved by the city attorney with Wilden Energy Solutions for design, build, energy services in an amount not to exceed $65,000. What? What did I miss? I missed B. I apologize. But let's just go ahead and do that, please. I've already called it out. Let's do it. How did I miss that? IT, I apologize, IT. You're not going anywhere anyway. All right, Mr. Goodman.
Okay, so what this project is about is we put out an RFP back in July for a design build energy services. And what what that entails is having a firm come in and actually look at all the city's energy consuming processes, facilities, so on, and then them recommending to us things that we can do to reduce our energy consumption, reduce our carbon footprint, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. And the real key to this is that those measures have to pay, through the energy savings, those measures pay for the cost of the project. So in the end, you're not having to really invest anything at the end of the day, because the savings is going to be there. So we put out this RFP. We had three different firms who provided, well, it was actually an RFQ. They provided their qualifications. We took our time to look through the qualifications, and those qualifications, we were looking at those qualifications, and we were trying to look at them from five different areas. We looked at the quality of the proposal, and the approach of the proposal. Was it broad or was it overly focused? And were there adequate, pertinent examples of successful projects? And then we looked at the project team. Did the team look like they were capable of doing what they said they could do? And did they have experience in delivering satisfactory projects? And then three, the successful projects of this type that were delivered by the firm in California, because actually things, if you've never lived outside of California, you don't know this, but things are different in California. Now you know.
Wait, what?
And then current and past litigation for projects of this type. So if a firm has projects, road projects, we're not concerned about litigation on road projects because that's not a project of this type. And then success in finding alternative funding sources. So it might be possible, because these are energy saving projects, there's probably grant money available for many of them. Maybe not completely fund things, but how successful have they been in finding those alternative sources? So those were the things we were looking at. We looked at these three firms, and we looked at their background and where they're located, how many projects they've done in California, how successful they've been, litigation, et cetera, and we felt that the firm that could best serve the city was Willdan Energy Services. Willdan Energy Services is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Willdan Group. And Willdan Group does a lot of things, and all kinds of engineering all up and down the state and outside the state as well. And so we then went down the road of putting together a professional services agreement. Took some time to get that done so that it worked well for the city as well as for Willdan. But we came up with an agreement that with our legal team to make sure, that they were satisfied that that was going to protect the city and that we were going to get the project we wanted. And so that's what's before you tonight is we're seeking your approval to move forward with this project. It is not to exceed $65,000. That is for that engineer level survey of all of our systems, and then coming back with proposals as to what we could do. And if it doesn't make sense to do something, there's not money available or something, or let's just throw out an example. They go out and they look at all of our wells, and they could be looking at the wells from the standpoint of, are our pumps optimal? Are our motors optimal? Are there ways we can save money and be more efficient with our wells? Well, perhaps what we have in the ground is optimal already, and so they just have to turn away from that project, go look everywhere else. And so they'll be, as they look at these different possible projects, then they'll be making a determination on whether or not there's a viable project there. And then they bring those projects back to us. At that point, then we have the option, and you will have the option of saying, no, we don't want to go down that road, or yes, we do want to go down that road. So then they go to work on finding funding, they go to work on design, they design the project, and we move forward. And then that $65,000 gets folded into those projects. And whereas if we just say at the end of that, we look at everything and we say, we're not going to do anything. Thank you very much. You did a good job. here's your $65,000, and they take their $65,000 and go. So that's basically what you're looking at today, is just getting us through that, that survey, that engineering survey of our facilities. And so that's the approval we're seeking. Any questions about anything I've said?
Questions for Director?
Maybe this is premature, but do you have any like ideas of what kind of things they can bring back to us and what sort of projects are maybe on the forefront?
I have ideas, but I also have a representative from Wildan here with us. This is Jason Boyd, right? Jason, why don't you come up here? So Jason, I believe, is going to be the lead on this project with the city.
We are honored to be selected and approved by you, yes.
So can you answer Councilmember's question? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You guys hear me okay? All right. Thank you for the question. So, we are just getting started with the process, but in general, we'd be looking at a pretty comprehensive view of energy using infrastructure and the facilities of the city. As Director Goodman said, everything from pumps and motors and equipment, HVAC systems, lighting, interior and exterior and street lighting, controls, solar power, basically looking at all the different ways that we can help the city either use less energy, save on your energy costs, save on operations and maintenance costs, and really just overall improve the performance of your facilities and infrastructure.
Other questions?
Hi. You've obviously done this in other cities before. What kind of cost savings are we potentially looking at?
It's really hard to say this early in the process.
Ballpark figure? Is it going to be worth our $65,000?
Exactly.
Yeah, very much.
Guaranteed to get your money back?
In a citywide project, ultimately you could be looking at several $1 million worth of improvements.
We won't hold you to it, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, could be. Okay.
There's a broad range. It could be several $1 million for a city of your size. And, the great thing is that you are often making these investments in improving your infrastructure without putting forward that capital spend.
Okay, thank you. Question for either the city attorney, city manager. The $65,000 is split between general fund and enterprise fund. $21,450 going to general fund. Are the staff time being split equally for this? So your time, city manager's time, city attorney's time, any Mr. Goodman's time, is that being split
Yes.
between the funds too? Okay. And then Noresco was another one of the bidders, and there was a mention of a conflict of interest because Wildan had worked for us in the past. What did they do for the city of Turlock before?
Well, okay, there's been a couple of things at least that I'm aware of, and obviously I haven't been here for very many years. Actually, I've been here for 10 months. So the things that I'm aware of are they provided us with a study of our HVAC in this building, and I believe out at WQC, because I know that we're working on replacing some units here with better units that are going to be more cost-effective for us to operate. And same thing out at WQC. So I know that work has been done, and I believe that they provided city engineer services for the engineering department or division downstairs. Those are two things that I'm aware of. There may be more.
Is that currently going on, or in the past?
The city engineering?
Yes.
I believe have we hired a city engineer at this point?
You've got one in the corral.
I don't believe Wildan is working for us, providing that service for us at this point.
Haven't seen them be paid lately. Final question. I know that part of the scope was that they disclose any past litigation for projects of this type. I think it would probably be prudent that we do disclose that they have had some litigation, again, not on these types of projects, but that they have had some litigation recently on past projects for other municipalities, just not this type of work.
That is correct. And so so there's Wildan Energy Services, which is separate from Wildan, the Wildan Group, a wholly owned subsidiary. So they operate by themselves. Unfortunately for the Wildan Group, usually litigants go after whoever has the deepest
deep
pockets.
pockets, right.
So they're going to go after the Wildan Group.
Sure.
And so they get named in a lot of suits that, as the parent company. But the three lawsuits that were brought up in the letter that we received were with cities. Two of them were in, actually they may have all been in cities in Southern California.
One was not a city, but yeah.
Oh, that's right, Bear Valley. And so two of them were roads projects,
Okay.
which of course have nothing to do with energy
One was engineering or
services.
something, yeah.
And the other was a financial study for a rate. It was a rate case. It was done for a water system in a city. And those are old, and they've been either resolved at this point, or they are probably going to be dismissed as being just
Okay.
unrealistic litigation,
Yeah,
or
I
whatever you
had
call
received
it.
a letter from a constituent. I just wanted to make sure that
I don't think
brought
we
that
need to comment on any of the litigation. I mean, we don't have any opinion as to the litigation because we don't know, we don't know anything about it other than the email we saw listing them. One of them was very old, I think from 2007.
yeah, it was
I think
very
the
old.
others were more recent, but
Yeah, and the one from 2007, actually, it was a report that had been settled.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before I open it to public? No? All right, we'll open it to public.
Yes, thank you for your explanation, but I do have a question. I don't know where we are in this project, but initially we had planned on replacing the lighting at Pedretti Park, our wonderful baseball park, and it turned out to be very expensive. So is this a place where you could help us determine a lighting system that would be appropriate for Pedretti Park? Now, I'm the one that's getting tongue twisted tonight.
It happens.
The park, so would you be able to
We're gonna
provide
have
us?
an update on it's about to happen, so that's kind of after the fact. It would, I mean, he can
Well,
look at
maybe
other
you could
lighting.
save us some money.
I think we're already committed though, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But,
Well, okay,
lighting
then I'll
things-
finish.
Okay,
I'll
go
just
ahead,
stop. Thank you.
No, if you have something else? No. Okay, can you address any lighting? Can you look at lighting, and how it could be more efficient, for anything in the city?
Yes, absolutely. It's usually a great opportunity for energy and cost savings, and also an opportunity to improve lighting quality as well. So, yes.
Anyone else?
Mr. Goodwin, I was trying to follow along, and when you use acronyms, it's like you know what you're talking about, but you were talking about some place, WCAC or something, and I didn't get that. I mean, I'm in the back, and I usually do have good hearing, although I need to wear glasses. But it's if you could repeat where this is going to happen and use like layman's terms, it would be helpful for those of us who are not in your area of expertise. All right, and I also want
apologize.
to go back to, I did ask about the city's T-ball program, and I didn't get an answer. So can that happen later? Oh, wait. But yeah, I just didn't understand the area you were talking about and specific.
Okay, I apologize. Yes, I spent time in the Army, so I've been around acronyms for a long time. So WQC is the water quality control. That's the wastewater treatment plant out on the west side of town. And I don't know how much of this project and this survey will be involved out at the plant. Could involve everything out there. I have no idea. That's something that they will be looking at and determining where there's opportunities. But that's what the WQC is.
Anyone else? Okay, let's close it and bring it back for council. Are there other questions of the director or
Just
Yeah,
what,
just one second.
Sir, sorry, I didn't catch your name, but for a city of our size, how long does something like this take? When can we expect to see your report back?
Yeah, so, sorry, closer to the microphone. Again, kind of scope dependent, but I would estimate 6 to 8 months for this part of the process. And we'd be very excited to bring back the results and explore the opportunities with you.
What do you mean by scope dependent?
Sorry. Depending on what kinds of things the city wants us to investigate and, what kind of priorities that they have, then it may take longer or shorter amount of time.
But I mean, that wasn't discussed when you gave us your price for what you plan on doing?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
So the RFP had the scope of what we wanted you to do. So when you say we're gonna do scope dependent, you already know what that scope is. So you should know pretty much how long it should take you, right?
Yeah, I guess. No, you make a good point. So we're anticipating 6 to 8 months. I would say, like with most investigations, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes there are things that warrant further investigation. Sorry.
So is it
that a
safe-
more clear answer?
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that you'll bring back items for us to spend money on to be more efficient with? Is that what's gonna happen?
Yes. And also, as part of the process, we'll help put together potential funding solutions to help pay.
Spend a lot of time on that, will you?
That's the goal. With your approval.
Please.
Okay, what's the will of council?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
No, it passes with a 4-1. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I gotta go back to IT. Mr. Wilson, I left you hanging there. Are you doing it, or is Miss Eddie is?
I'm gonna look to Deputy Director, Deputy City Manager.
Passing the buck. All right. Miss Eddie, you're up.
She knows more about it than I do.
Well, let's see. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff, and the public. The item before you this evening is a recommendation from staff to approve the establishment of an information technology department to include the appointment of a department director, the reclassification of various incumbents, job description revisions, and amending the management salary schedule. If approved this evening, this change will become effective April 1st, 2023. Council has conveyed the need for improvement regarding information technology functions, including upgrading the city's website. In an effort to bring these requests to fruition, staff is requesting changes that would allow for more effective and efficient workflow, employee succession planning, improved response time, and streamlined department processes, which will result in a more cohesive workforce and provide better customer service to both internal and external customers. This department will be responsible for the creation and maintenance of a new user-friendly city website, which will require collaboration with all city departments. You will see an update regarding the city's website under City Manager Reports and Updates. On February 6th of this year, the city filled a newly allocated full-time position for Geographic Information Systems Coordinator to support the demands from various departments. The GIS coordinator is responsible for monitoring trends in GIS technology. The incumbent is in the process of reviewing data and meeting with city departments. The fiscal impact for the remainder of this fiscal year, April 1st, 23 through June 30th, 23, will result in a cost savings of approximately $10,000. The fiscal impact for fiscal year July 1st, 23 through June 30th, 24 is also a cost savings of approximately $35,000. Just to better explain how we get savings out of these changes, the savings are basically a result of eliminating 2 IT coordinator positions, not the job classifications, but at this time, the positions, and adding a director and an IT technician. And if you look at attachment B in your packet, you'll see the current organization chart and the proposed organization chart for this department. It breaks out two divisions, one for GIS and one for IT. To give you a little bit more of an explanation, if you look at, these cost savings were based on looking at salary savings only, not with roll-ups at this time, for comparison purposes. And not everyone, as people move into different classifications, people, let's say the coordinators at this time, or have been at step 5, which is the top step. So reclassifications will move people to different steps, and that's how you'll see the savings, and provide for a department and a director and a manager, and this has just been a long time coming. So I shouldn't have gone off track, but I'm passionate about this.
A little passionate.
The recommended establishment of an IT technology department will align responsibilities and functions under the appropriate leadership, which will in turn allow the department to improve their response time and provide services in a more efficient manner. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Miss Eddy? Self-explanatory. All right, let's open it to the public. Nothing? Okay, we'll close the public comment and bring it back.
Move to approve.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0.
Thank you
for that.
so much. I am so excited for this department and the city for this.
George gonna jump up and down back there in the corner.
George is going to jump up and
Happy
down.
dance.
Nick's going to jump up and down, and a few more will.
Nick's okay there too, huh? Okay, we are to the city manager reports and updates. Mr. Wilson, what do you got, buddy?
Mayor, members of the council, I've actually asked Director Schultz if he would bring us up to date on the play schedule at Verity Park and the status of,
Button.
and the status of the lights and what's going on with them.
Great.
Okay?
You want to cover T-ball too?
I will.
Thank you.
We do. We'll have Pee Wee, T-ball, Tiny Tots, karate, track, self-defense, dance, swim lessons. We're also looking at youth pickleball and various other activities for youth.
Javelin.
Javelin. Honorable Mayor, Council, I just want to give you guys a quick update on Verity Park. We're very fortunate. We've come out of COVID very strong out at the park. A lot of the programs have suffered, but Verity Park has been fortunate. We're in our spring softball league right now. We have 62 teams, 753 players playing on those teams. We have 36 scheduled tournaments so far this year, and those are confirmed. We've had some that have been rained out, unfortunately. That's made up of 16 girls fast pitch, 7 youth baseball, 3 senior softball, 3 church groups, 6 adult softball. And I'm proud to say this coming weekend, we are hosting CSUS Girls Fast Pitch Tournament of Champions out at the park. This has been an ongoing partnership with them. It's a great event. If you guys have time, please come out, watch some incredible softball. And we have teams traveling from Hawaii, Canada, and all over the United States. So it's not just a great thing for Verity Park, but it's a great TOT for the city as we're bringing people in heads in beds. We also have a project that we've had for a while going on out at Verity Park. We are working on the lights. We're going to replace the lights out there. We're going from halogen to LEDs. We're working on bids starting to go out for advertisement in May, awarded in June, and hopefully construction on the project will start in September. Funding for this has been ongoing for a while. We started in 2015, where council set aside money for 3 straight years that generated $489,000 that we've been sitting on for a while. The project got delayed for a while when the bids came back much higher than that, and the city just wasn't in a very good financial spot at that time. So we really stopped that. And then we're also fortunate to get a TID grant for $150,000. So currently we have $639,482 for the project. It's in design, and the estimated costs are about $726,000. We're short about $87,000. Those are just the the estimated costs, I'd probably add 10% on that, just in case. That's something that we're looking at. Once we get those bids back in, hopefully we have a lot of people bid and keep that price down for us. And at that point, we'll come back to council. I think it's gonna be an augmentation that we're already working on. It'll come with the budget, asking for the remainder. And we'll ask for that out of the TOTs also if there's money available. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions on the park. Things are going great. We're very happy.
Questions for director? No? That's awesome. Thank you. We'll see you out there this weekend.
Thank you. Yes, you will.
Were there any other, nope, you good? All right. Council items for future consideration. Council members? Yeah, here we go.
Some regular updates on traffic issues, such as the light at Monte Vista and Gold State Boulevard. I know I had a lot of comments and questions and phone calls, and that's, it's important that we keep the public and the council informed. So if we could get, any way that we can get more regular updates, that would be appreciated.
Kind of on that as well would be update on the website, which is going to be helping us with our communication. Hopefully, if there's something we haven't paid for that we need to, let's please get it on the agenda, because we've got to get better at this sooner than later. And then I know that the governor just talked about that there isn't a crisis in water. So what does that mean to us? If we can have somebody come back in the next meeting or two and let us know what that means, that would be helpful. And what the cost savings of what our deputy city manager spoke about with IT, I'd like to ask Mr. Moreno, perhaps look at that money going towards something for us to get better communications as well, as we set forth our next fiscal year. Items, council questions, comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few comments, and maybe I'm learning, so maybe this should have gone in for future consideration. But just, on the topic of Monte Vista and Golden State being out, I think that's a shining example of the need for better communication. So I know April 11th, we're going to be hearing from IT and our public information officer contractor, and I really look forward to hearing what we can do as a city to have better internal processes and also better external communication, because when we do that, that's where all the hard work that's happening in parks and in all the various departments on what's happening here, we get to build that trust with the public, and they see the value of their tax dollars. I would also just like to take this brief opportunity to explain my no vote on the cell phone policy. I am all in favor of saving money, creating efficiency. I didn't think that plan was doing it. And lastly, I'd like to thank Director Schultz, and I also worked a little bit on this constituent issue with Director Schultz and his team and Officer Furtado in the traffic safety unit, because there was a constituent complaint about some speed signs and things not being drivers not spending, excuse me, I'm tongue-tied too tonight.
Everybody is.
Yeah, there it goes. Issues of excessive speeds on a road in my district. And we got some changes with the signs, and we have a radar trailer out there now. And so I really appreciate the support that we could provide for this neighborhood.
I want to thank you again, Chief, and I give you another kudos for your report tonight. I know I have family in law enforcement, and I was retired law enforcement, and I know that right now is a really tough time. And I think everything that I'm hearing from the ground level and from neighboring departments about how your men really appreciate your leadership, and it's a very positive place, and that you just need to hear that, and I appreciate it.
Word. Yeah. For the housing funds report, somehow the grand total of the funds got wiped out. It's not there on the report anymore. So if we could add that back in, by the way, there's $20,319,000 in there. It's not there.
How many cents?
Well, I
added it up.
I thought it was 22 million, but okay.
Yeah. There's a number missing then. We'll have to have Money Men look at it. Thank you to the Public Works Department, potholes. I just spoke with Director Schultz just a little while ago. They are averaging filling 112 potholes per day. That's 560 a week. It's a never-ending story. So big shout out to the people in Public Works. Thank you for your efforts. It's difficult with this rain, but we appreciate how much you guys work at that. Also, Little League is in full swing. Haha, sorry, pun. Thank you to everyone who supports Little League. I love to see the local signs and the local ads on the shirts, and appreciate everything that you guys do for that department. Thank you.
Are you gonna talk about some capital water that's some special?
Go ahead.
No, you can.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure it gets mentioned.
Okay, good.
We have a homeless update coming soon.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to put that out there because folks have been asking, and we're working on a pretty big update. It's coming very soon.
So I guess I'm the one mentioning that one of our K-9 officers got Kevlar, which is a pretty cool thing. So I know, right? It does make you sweat like a dog. No kidding. No pun. Yeah, is it right? So great job. But props to Scavenger, because that's a lot of tonnage that we had to pick up from people just leaving their garbage, and they do that for us. So they need props for that. I think it's important. And tomorrow, 10 o'clock right here, because it's going to be raining, will be the Vietnam Veterans Day. Please feel free to come and participate and support. Other than that, we have no closed session, so this meeting has been adjourned.